Now, and welcome to this tutorial on making a thumbnail for YouTube. We're going to be using image manipulation software called Pixlr by a company called Autodesk to make, to copy a thumbnail that's been chasing me around YouTube for quite some time, and it's not my favourite, but it's definitely eye-catching, so I thought I'd show you how to create it. So, before we begin, let's get on with this presentation. Right, so vocabulary. Image manipulation software is an app or software used to create or change images. Manipulation means change. A thumbnail is a small banner showing the contents of a video. Obviously it's something that's on the end of one of your digits on your hand, and the banner size that we're creating is actually 720 HD, which is quite large, but YouTube tend to shrink them down for use as a thumbnail. Feathering is a technique used to smooth or blur the edges of a feature. Tolerance is the number of shades a colour, shades of colour a tool selects. So I'm going to explain all these things a little bit further on, but those are the basics. Right, so by the end of this tutorial, I'm hoping that you will know what image manipulation software is and how to use it, and what feathering and tolerance look like. In the video, in the tutorial, I will talk about why I've used the images I've used. I'll explain how tolerance works, show how to add an outline, or in this case it's actually going to be an outer glow, explain why I've used feathering, how to use text, so change the size and colour of text, and how to add eye-catching shapes and blur them, and show you how to save, and I'll explain the different save options. So let's begin. Over in Pixlr, there's my previous attempt. This is the third time I've made this tutorial, so bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to go with 720p. Over here, that's the name of the file. There you go, 1280 by 720. So that's actually quite large, much bigger than the thumbnail that's going to be created. I'm going to have a background, and the colour is going to be black, which is not on there. I'll just add a colour and I'll change it. Oh, in a bit. There you go. Let's just change that down to black. Didn't know about that. Press create. Okay, so I've got a black background. It's my range tool. Yeah, so there's my layers. I don't really need that one, and I don't need history. Just going to look at my layers today. These are the images that I considered doing for this. One of them is a bit rubbish, and the other one I'm going to use. So what I would have liked to have had was this one, because I think it actually was quite funny. But if you look at his eyebrows, it's beginning to pixelate. Let's just zoom in for a sec. I wasn't going to use him this big. But yeah, see on his hands he's got pixelated or sort of jaggedy edges, slightly blurry edges, and that's because the image is small. Actually, if I switch the navigator back on, you see the size. It's like 180 by 270, and bearing in mind the overall size is like 1000 and something. That's just no good. So let's ignore that for the minute. And the one that I'm going with is this one of him looking up. And I chose this one because it's got a white background on it, so the chances are I'm going to be able to use my magic wand tool instead of having to go down using this lasso tool that's slightly trickier. So I'm going to start with the magic wand tool, and if I start with a tolerance of 30, what does that manage? Okay, so that selects all the edges quite nicely. That's cool. Okay, I'll show you feathering for a sec. So if I actually let's switch feathering off. No, switch it on and then I'll show you without it. So something quite large, so you can see. Click off, click back on, and then delete. And then can you see it's got sort of quite a weird glow about it. So click off for a sec. And that's the white of the background kind of fading into this transparency. So if I zoom in for a sec, Control and plus, you can see that, so it goes from 100% white and fades over a distance of 50 pixels. So it fades over a distance 50 pixels down into complete transparency, maybe about there. And he's got quite a weird sort of glow about him. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use, let's just undo for a sec. Control Z. Let's take the feathering off. Right, reselect, delete, and just deselect for a sec. So select, deselect. Now if I zoom in, you see the edge. I think this might be picking up his hairs or something. It's got sort of a slightly jaggedy edge. Thinking about it, I probably would use feathering if I wasn't going to put a white outline around him. Let's just see what happens with that one. So I'm going to select all. So select all, or as you can see, Control A is the shortcut, and then copy. So that's edit copy. That's Control C is the shortcut. And I'm going to go into my full size shape and paste, which is Control V. Paste, Control V. And the ears portion particularly large, so let's just zoom out for a sec. Go with my arrange tool, just shrink him down so that he's, bother, how old are the corners? There you go. Right, problem with having a black background is you can't see the edges of the canvas, so I'm just going to fill this background layer if it will let me. No, let's add a transparent layer. Fill it with blue, and everything's vanished, but that's because the layer is above everything. So let's just drag that down. Just use that as the background layer for now. Right, I didn't see this, but he's got a corner just there. So I could either shrink him down, lower him down, maybe like that. That would do it. And he's looking directly at the text. I'm going to give him a white outline. Now, Pixlr has an outline function on it, but it doesn't allow you to feather. So we'll just kind of see what happens with that one for a sec. Go with the white outline. Okay. That's done quite a good job, but can you see it's picked up? That's all this sort of possibly hair, maybe, that the magic wand tool picked up. So I'm going to cancel that for a sec. Let's just zoom in a bit more. And I'm going to use an outer glow instead, because this allows me So we're going with white again. Size, let's make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, so these sort of slightly jaggedy edges, if I use the feather tool, just to gently blur it out. Nice. Okay, apply. Right, I'm going to add the text just so I can see what I'm dealing with. So it was, I can't remember what the text was. Let's have a look at the front slide again. So, oh yeah, you really had to be there. So you really had to. And plus, and add a text layer. You really had to. Right, and I'm going with white text. Okay. And it's going to go somewhere around there. I'm going to make it bold so it becomes slightly thicker. I'm going to left align it. I don't like centre line. And also, can you see that these line spacing, so the space between the words, is large? So I want to reduce that. Something like that. I'm going to knock the font size up. Font size should be about as big as you can get away with it. So I'm going to go with, let's just see. Whoa, that was huge. Let's go with that. Right, make the box wide enough. Cool. Okay, so that's one. Let's add another layer in for the rest of the text. So plus and text to, so you really had to, and then be there, ... So okay, and this time I'm going to go with, so back to my text tool, and I'm going to make it bold again and right aligned, and then the line space, just reduce that to about there. Just out of interest, this is letter space, so I could spread the letters out. I'm not going to, but, or I could shrink them so they're even closer together and slightly overlapping, which looks pretty cool in some instances, but not today. Right, okay, let's cross that off. Good, okay. Now I'm going to, I need to get the logo on there, which is going to be a bit of a bummer. Let's just see. Right, so let's shift him over for a sec. Move over Dara. There you are. And get this text over too. We could maybe put the comedy logo in the middle. So I'm going to go with Shapes tool. Shapes. Oh, I need to create a new layer for this, because otherwise, I've done this before, I could be on the same layer as Dara, draw my shapes, and then I can't move them without moving Dara as well. So I'm going to put a new layer on, which is an empty layer, and then my shapes tool, going with a circle for the comedy. The comedy logo is going to be the same colour as the background, just for now. So let's put that down. When I do this, I'm going to hold Shift down, which makes sure the circle stays circular, although I just let go of it too quickly. And it's black, which I wanted a blue one, so edit, undo. Right, swap that around. Let's try again. Right, so drawing a circle. It's got a black outline on it. But we're going to have a black background, so it won't matter. Let's just choose that like that. Let's just hide that for a sec. That's what I'm working with. Good. Add a new text layer. Text. Right, so comedy. Comedy, and I'm gonna shrink this text box down to about there. Back to my text tool, I'm going to change the colour to white because it stands out really well against the black background. I'm going to drag that, and it's too big, so let's reduce the size a little bit. Drag that sideways. Is that about right? Okay, so that's the logo of the YouTube channel. That's still too large. It's annoying. 60. That's the right size. Good. Okay. And that's it, nicely centered. Splendid. I need to add more shapes, so I'm going to add another blank layer, empty layer. We just need something eye-catching. So the original thumbnail used just squares and rectangles. I'm going to go for a red square. And I think it's this way around. The background is, let's have a look at, just draw an experimental one. Yeah. So that's going to be behind him, obviously. And we're going to go with the yellow one as well. It's quite eye-catching. That yellow, quite like that one. Okay, and the sole purpose of these shapes is just to attract the eye. So let's stick the yellow one behind everything there, maybe. Okay, that'll end up behind both of these. I'm going to blur this layer, just because I quite liked it when I saw it on the original thumbnail. That's in details. I'm going to blur it, and let's increase the blur a bit. That's got the edges quite blurred. A bit more. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, apply. And I'm going to drag those down to just above the background layer. Nice. So, eye-catching. Near the top, that's where the text starts, and it's sort of on the left. But that's where the eye starts to read things, is usually about on this side of the banner. Anyway, it'll read from left to right. You really had to be there. And it's got Dara's face. Apparently the human eye is attracted to human faces, so that's why I've used his face. I put the white outline around him to make him stand out. And then, yeah, use the red and yellow shapes to attract the eye again. So, fairly eye-catching relatively easy to read and understand thumbnail. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to save it. So to save these things, I'm going to save the JPEG first. So the JPEG is the file that would be used for uploading to YouTube. I'm not going to use it in this case because I've copied somebody else's work there, so I'm not going to use that. But anyway, I'll save it pretending I'm going to use it. So JPEG. If you've used a transparent background, it'll prompt you to use PNG, which supports background transparency. Save that for a sec, so download. That's good. Save. Okay, close that. And I'm also going to save the original. So save the original. And it's called a PXD, a Pixlr drawing, I'm guessing. So download. Yes. Save. In the appropriate folder. And it's already got the file name on it, so that's useful. Save. Right, so that's all that done. So let's just quickly check my presentation. Have I done what I said I was going to? Blah, blah, blah. Right, so I have talked about why I used the images that I used. I explained how tolerance worked. So that was using the magic wand tool. I showed how to add an outline and at the same time explained feathering. I showed you how to add text and change the size and colour of the text. I showed you how to add eye-catching shapes and how to blur them. And then finally showed you how to save and explained the different save options. So I did exactly what it said on the tin. Right, so your task is to write a summary explaining the tools and techniques used in making a thumbnail for a video using image manipulation software. I've suggested that you could maybe use these words: outline, font size, tolerance, feathering, and you could also include tips for designing your own thumbnail. So do you remember what I said about important things like the text starting near the top of the page, the bright colours, the large fonts, the contrast between the background and the colour of the fonts and the colour of the shapes. It's all very eye-catching, possibly too eye-catching, we'll see. And I've added some sentence openers, so when designing a thumbnail, follow these rules. Tools used to select areas of an image are, and that was the magic wand tool which we used. There's also the lasso tool, which we haven't used, but if you know about it you can maybe talk about that. And techniques include feathering, or techniques include using tolerance. Anyway, so there's your task. Have a little go, and when you've finished, go outside into the sunshine. You know that big burning ball in the sky? Don't look at it, but just sit there in the sun for at least 20 minutes and get some vitamin D. Teenagers, eh? Right, anyway, see you in the next one.